Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Jim, W2KFV. I'm the section manager for the New York City Long Island section, and we'd like to welcome you here to the NLI EMCOMM presentation. Who we have here with us, we have our Hudson Division Director, Ria, and to RJ. She'll be talking to us with a little bit of ARRL information. Then I'll be talking a little bit about some things on Long Island. Won't be long. It won't take that long. And then we're going to do our main portion of the program is talk about Winlink with Rob, KD2 GRS, and he's a assistant DEC in Nassau County, and he will be presenting the Winlink forum for us. So without further ado, I do want to thank you for joining, and I hope you're having a good day today. So I'm going to pass it over to Ria, and she could tell us a little bit about what's going on in the ARRL. Ria, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Jim, and thank you to HRU committee for this fine event. This is a few years presenting, and always happy. So I want to give you a few updates about ARRL and also talk about a special event that we're doing. And let me see here. Could do the screen share. Let's see here. Sorry to ask this, Jim. Okay. Okay. My max security kicked in. Okay. Anyway, screen recording. Sorry, I thought I had to set up, but okay, there we go. All right. Anyway, so I'll talk about a few things, and then I'll probably share some slides afterward. So we have okay, right. So the first thing first is that we have a new vice director, Nomar NP4H, and he has been doing great work. He's been on the board since July, and he has been basically, in the vice director role, replacing Bill Hudzik. Bill retired back in January, after the January meeting, because he was dealing with an illness. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and then sadly that affected his ability to do the vice director role. I really thank Bill for his service, because I was really, he was one of the first ARRL officials that I've ever met, and I really enjoyed working with him. So I wish him well in his health, and I also welcome Nomar. So Nomar, you can reach out to him at np4h@arrl.org. What else are we doing around the division? So we have HamFests returning at a good clip. I know Limemark has had a couple of HamFests, and attendance not back to where it was, but it's getting there. So I'm hoping more people support the local HamFests. And you have some out on Long Island, you have Limemark, you have Suffolk County, and such like that. So club meetings are also returning. The division awards we're going to put out soon. We're planning to have an event sometime in the spring. We're in the planning stages, and Orange County is going to be doing it again. So look out for that. Okay. I have a newsletter that I send out occasionally. You can go on to the ARRL website under your profile, and you can set that up. You can set that up and receive information. I know Jim also sends one out. So if you subscribe to Section and Division News, you will get from both Jim, and you'll get also from me if you're in Hudson Division and New York City, Long Island. Of course, if you're in the other areas of the Hudson Division, you will get from your respective section manager. And if you're in other areas of the country, you'll also get from other places. So I want to show you a little bit of volunteer on the air, and let me see if I can see here. Are you seeing my screen? Okay. Am I able to show screen?
I see you.
Yes. You can show your screen. Just click on the button that says show my screen.
Okay. I might need to quit and reopen because I had to deal with security preference on Mac. So let me just do that for a quick second, okay? Sorry about that. I didn't realize it would have. I'll be back in a second. Okay.
I guess you'll be back in a minute, so, okay. So in the meantime, I'd like to talk a little bit about, while we'll wait for Rhea, let me jump into the NTS thing. NTS, for those that don't know, is National Traffic System. And what's happening with the ARRL and the NTS people, they have combined together to update the NTS program and try to encourage more people to get involved with it. They'll be redoing the NTS manual. It's a long overdue update. And there are going to be new webinars and training, and that should be starting sometime in April. But the idea here is we should encourage all EMCOMM people to get familiar with message handling by checking into some of the local nets and learn some of the protocols, because we never know when it's going to be needed. So especially the EMCOMM group, you should have a couple of people really pretty fluent with the traffic handling, whether it's HF or VHF in the local nets. So that's one thing I wanted to bring up. And Rhea, I guess, back. So we'll go back to Rhea. Tell us all about Vara.
Yeah, I don't see the screen share button. I don't know, you need to re-enable it for me.
Oh, get me out of there. Joy.
Okay.
Okay.
You have it?
Okay, there we go. Yep, I do. And it's in a Chrome tab here. Okay. All right. Let me see my screen here and okay. Okay, so you see here the ARRL volunteer on the air operating event. So we have headquarters and the board has organized as volunteers on the air operating event. And from January 1 meetings already started. You have an event that's going to have two highlights. So one of them is that you're able to work volunteers who are ARRL volunteers or even ARRL members for various point categories. And for example, as a director, I think 225 points you get for working me. I think the section managers, you get like 150 points, and there's a whole points table at vota.arrl.org. But also there's going to be an activation state by state of W1AW station, similar to what we did for Centennial. And I believe New York is coming up in the second part of this, sometime in early January. Yeah. We have the Northern New York section is actually, they're doing some work on that. I also reach out to Lou NO2C to see if he would wanted to help as well too. So there's going to be a lot of New York and also New Jersey as well too, and other places. So look out for it at vota.arrl.org. You upload your logs to Logbook of the World. You could get certificates well, not printed, but PDF certificates, and you will be able to get to claim points and such like that. But this isn't only contest styled operating. It is more, you can do casual QSOs, you can do CW, you can do FT8, everything. And the frequencies we're using here, you have a table of the frequencies. You have the core bands. We're not using the work bands because we don't want to clutter up the work bands, but 160, 80, 40, 20, 15, 10, 6, and also 2 meters, 220 and 70 centimeters, and also 903 and up. You can make one contact per mode on those with each person, and then also you can work the satellites too. So if you're into that, okay. All right, so yeah, you go to vota.arrl.org, and I'll show you that now here. And we have our website. We have the points table. You can see the points table here. You see all the points. The president is worth 300. The all the others, the vice presidents are worth like 250. directors are 225, and the section manager is 175. And all others, you know, and then you go down, you have like other different volunteers. Of course, this doesn't mean that anybody's less important, okay? We really appreciate all our volunteers. And but you know, we have different points categories because there are different numbers of them. So there's a lot of them. You have like all of these here: local government liaison, bulletin emergency, relay station, PIOs, and technical specialists, right down to life member gets 2 points and a regular annual member gets 1 point. So the V gets 5. Okay. All right, so that's all I have to say about VOTA. I don't want to take up too much time. That Winlink presentation looks interesting. We can take questions for me at the end, okay, just so you know. And thank you very much for listening to a little my spiel about the ARRL. Of course, if you want to contact me offline, you could go n2rj@arrl.org. Back to Jim.
Great. Thank you, Rhea. It's very enlightening. Yeah, VOTA, it's going to be a great time. I will have a question for you later. I personally, well, I don't know if I'll be able to type it, but anyway, let's move forward a little bit. I did talk a little bit about the NTS and where it's going, but a couple of things. What we will do, we'd like to get some people involved in that, and even clubs, the local clubs on Long Island should have a couple of people that are involved in that. And to touch base on that, one of the good things there is Rep Lesko introduced a bill to replace the symbol rate and the bandwidth limit to 2.8 kilohertz, which is good. If that that'll be one of the better things because we've been hurting on that end. But okay, let's move forward. What we have here, is Winlink a good resource for EMCOMM in the New York City, Long Island area and in the section. So, and it's presented by Nassau County AEC, Rob J, KD2GRS. Rob will tell us or explain to us how Nassau Aries Group uses Winlink and its benefits to EMCOMM in general. Other sources we may be looking at in the near future may be All-Star, Expanded DMR, DRATS, Rattlegram, etc. So, Rob, take it away with Winlink and give us a good one. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Jim and Rhea, for the intro. Everybody see my screen right now? Can someone just, George, can you give me a confirmation on that?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, great. So I'm going to talk about Winlink. Winlink for NLI. I'm the ADEC, that's the Assistant District Emergency Coordinator for Nassau County ARRS, which is a public service amateur radio emergency service group here. Just to follow up on what Jim said, you know, EMCOMM is really a core part of the amateur radio service in CFR 97.1. It's really literally one of the first reasons that they justify allocating the bands to us for public service and national communication service. There are a lot of groups out there. The group I'm in, ARRS group here, we have Nassau County. We also have New York City and some groups out in Suffolk County. And there's a corresponding service called RACES, which is more of a governmental type thing that's defined in 97.1. And they're called RACES. It's a radio service. It's also a group of folks that are together. They work with Nassau County OEM out here for radio communications. As Jim said, we have a lot of tools in our toolbox here in NLI. The backbone of our communications is FM repeaters and simplex on 2 meter and 70 centimeter 440. For digital modes, we do use a program called FL Digi, it's really unstructured. It's kind of like texting for your computer using digital modes. We do weekly drills on that in the Nassau County ARRS group. We do have D-Star with DRATS and all that. And of course, there's a big DMR system here on Long Island, which we do use as well. What I'm here to talk to you today is a system called Winlink. And Winlink is a radio-based system. I'll get more into exactly what it is, but we use that as well. The reason why we use it, the current trends in EMCOMM, emergency communications could be anything or anyone helping out. If you hear someone that needs help, they're calling out on the radio, they require assistance, you can answer. If there's things going on, storms, hurricanes, the Hurricane Watch Net, anyone can jump in on those things and participate and listen. The application that Winlink is really good for is more of an organized emergency communication or EMCOMM group. So we're talking about systems like working with Nassau County OEM or the American Red Cross or the Nassau County Fire Districts, which all have ham radio stations in them. And these systems are structured to operate under something called NIMS, which is the National Incident Management System. And also they're set up using the ICS or Incident Command Structure. So this is a standard way of different agencies to work together. It has common knowledge, common forms, common language, procedures, organization. So if you are assigned a role working for any organization and you understand how the organization is structured under the ICS, you should be able to fit in and serve them. So for us as radio operators, whether you're in ARRIs or RACES or AUXCOM, we do have MARS here, the Army system in the NLI as well, or just coming in to help out as an unaffiliated volunteer. So the thing I always stress is, we're radio operators, but we're also communicators. So we should be able to use the radio plus other systems, if the internet, if it's available, agency radios, fire department radios, etc., because we're radio operators. So Winlink, well, we're going to cover these topics here. Explaining what it is, what its capabilities are, and why it's good for EMCOMM. And then we'll go down some of the major components and of the system itself and the client stations. So we'll just go over that. So Winlink is a worldwide system for sending email via radio, or something that's similar to email anyway. It's a worldwide system. It is more heavily concentrated here in the United States, the continental United States, but it is a worldwide system. And it originally started out as something called sail mail, where sailors out in the middle of the ocean needed to send messages back and forth, couldn't always rely on voice or CW communications at the time. Turns out a lot of the same reasons they needed Winlink are the same reasons we need them for EMCOMM. It is entirely supported and operated by the amateur radio community, by volunteers. They're organized under a foundation.
Yeah, Rob, we're not seeing your slides go through. We saw the front thing on. Can you start your slide presentation?
Should be going.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it anyway. I don't know, George, can you tell me, is it going through? It's up, but I don't see it working out.
You need to start the slideshow, Rob. You haven't done that. Click on slideshow or just press F5.
Okay, this has worked 100 times before.
There you go. Oh, you had it.
Hold on. Slideshow, and you're seeing it now?
Yeah, but it's not moving. You may have to go through each individual slide.
Click on slideshow and click start from.
Yeah, I have the slideshow up full screen and I'm presenting my screen.
Now it's there.
There it is. That's it. Now you got it.
Okay. Well, apologies for that.
No problem.
Anyway, we haven't seen any good pictures yet, so basically what I said is just up on the screen here.
Okay, we're doing well.
Okay. And as I said, Winlink, I think I'm down here to this bullet here. So it's been adopted by many different government agencies and NGOs, American Red Cross, different emergency response teams, and whatnot. There's a lot of government agencies that use this. Sometimes it's not even on amateur radio bands. They have their own frequencies that they use as well. So it's fairly universally used. The reasons why it's good for EMCOMM. So it is flexible. We have a lot of options. So we have internet only connections as well as radio RF connections. We can link or bridge it into internet email, so you can send messages via Winlink that ultimately wind up going out as internet email or vice versa, receiving internet email in. There are some restrictions I'll go over with that. There is a store and forward type of system. So again, the same reason why it was good for folks on a sailboat, you don't always have to have the other person online at the same time or on the air at the same time. You can send a message when it's convenient for you, when propagation is good, etc. And then that's a big benefit. If there is a kind of a total grid down scenario, there are peer-to-peer connections that you can do. So if you know the folks you want to be talking to, you can skip the entire Winlink system and just go basically client software to client software. So that works. And it provides a pretty familiar and simple email client interface. So if you've used Microsoft Outlook or Thunderbird, you at least from the point of creating messages, it should be something you're familiar with. It's very good for interoperability. That if I'm with my HT, or if I only have a mobile radio with FM and someone else has HF, we're kind of out of the water as far as talking to each other. Using Winlink, if I'm sending my messages out using FM on 2 meters through Packet, and they can pick it up on HF sometime later in the day and get the message. So it's not really good for tactical communications because it's not real time back and forth. Similar type of thing, station to station propagation. If I can't get from here to there directly via voice or any other way, FL Digi, going through this third-party system, we can eliminate those problems. So there's like even a problem here on Long Island getting to folks simplex from the South Shore over the terminal moraine to folks that might be on the North Shore. If there's no repeaters handy for voice, you can do this with Winlink. Again, so the system is really spread. Like I said, it's worldwide. It's geographically laid out, dispersed throughout the country. So different stations. The idea is, if there's an emergency here or there's a grid down here, but you're sending your messages through a station in Ohio, they might not have any problems at all there. So that's a reason for that. You don't also have to be on the air at the same time. So depending on what you're doing, and you could set this up to download messages automatically while you're even not there. You can send, there are some standard email style features, so you can send attachments, pictures. They have to be fairly low resolution, but you can send them PDFs, forms, spreadsheets. And this comes into like modern emergency communications. It's not really tactical communications, but it's lists of data, requisition forms, shelter statuses, things like that. Stuff that's very tedious to read down and try to do like a radiogram type of message with and get it accurate. So it's good for attaching those documents as text pad or Excel files or something like that and sending it over. So this is good. You can get good operation at different power levels. So you can get this to work with an HT if you're close by certain stations, although we recommend higher power radios. Does a lot of the ICS forms, ICS 309 log forms, things like that. There's a huge library of forms in there that you can use. If you have other forms, you can send them as attachments, like some folks send these FL Digi forms as attachments, and a lot of emergency communication agencies have these available for use. Because it is radio, you do have all your standard restrictions that follow Part 97. So there's no commercial messages, there's no foul or indecent language, no criminal activities, obviously. And you do have to follow the third-party message traffic rules. And this has caught some folks up in the hurricane, some of the tropical storms and hurricanes that hit the islands, which technically are foreign countries, and they get snared up in this. In order to maintain compliance with this, some of it's automatically done, but otherwise, they post all the Winlink messages that get sent on the winlink.org webpage. So there's a message viewer. If you're a system user, you can get in and use it and look at all the messages. And they do pop up and give people warnings and tell them not to do certain things anymore, mostly around commercial messages for folks. The attachments are supported, but because this is radio and it's a low speed type of link, the file attachments can't be above 120 kilobytes, which means you have to, if you're sending out a picture from your iPhone that's like 10 10 meg. It has to be compressed, and it kind of it takes away from it a little bit, but you can get it to work. And it's relatively low bandwidth. So we're talking back in the modem days, VHF Packet is usually 1200 baud. HF, they're making a lot of advancements now. Think about like your FT8s and things like that. The same kind of enhancements are going on in Winlink, but it's still slow. It can be very, very slow sometimes. So I said the Winlink system is an entire system. It's got 3 different levels to it. So one is this common message services, like a messaging backbone. They used to be like stations out, 5 stations each on different continents, and they all will link together with radio. They've since moved this into the Amazon Web Services. The second level here, these radio message servers. So these are amateur stations usually set up around the country that volunteer to participate as radio message servers. So they're the radio gateways between you, the client station, and the Winlink system backbone. And then finally, there's the client system, which would be you and your radio and your computer and the TNC or a sound card or modem or something like that. Again, so I'll show you some maps at the end. There's a lot of stations out there. They're spread between HF, VHF, UHF. The idea is you can use HF to contact these stations if they're outside an affected area. Let's say Hurricane Sandy hit us here, but in the Midwest, they were unaffected, or vice versa. VHF, UHF is good for contacting local RMS stations here and also for doing peer-to-peer connectivity. You can do it with HF if you have the right antennas, like an NBIS antenna, or you can use VHF. And we do have some infrastructure for that here in the NLI section on Long Island. This is a quick picture of it here. Again, the top part is the Amazon Web Services and the common core system. We have the remote systems out there. The client stations always link to these stations via RF, but you can also go directly to the internet and bypass the entire thing if it works. Here's just a quick picture of Winlink. So again, if you're in a spot where you've got to send a lot of messages and keep them all intact, it looks like something similar to what you'd see in Microsoft Outlook. You've got your file folders here for your inbox, your outbox, sent items. You can make your personal folders. You can have a contact list. Here's your list of all messages that are sent. And when you click on it, you can see it and preview it. And the only thing different, instead of send receive, you have these things called sessions where you're initiating a radio contact instead of just sending it out through the internet. Message forms, again, standard type of to from type of things. You type in your message. The interesting thing about Winlink is that they support this concept of templates. So templates are GUI forms that have an interface with drop-down buttons and special format inputs. Let's say for your positions and your latitudes and longitudes, things like that. So this would be let's say a Winlink check-in message that I'd be sending to our DEC Ken KD2GXL, and I'm telling them the radio room at the Red Cross is operational now, stuff like that. So he would see this message and he could file it, print it out, do what he needs to do with it, keeping track of it. There's a lot of forms that are built in, general forms, and then specifically these ICS forms here. The 213 form is equivalent to, let's say, a radiogram that you might see in NTS. And this 213 resource request, these are just all specific forms that if you've taken the ICS training, you're familiar with them, they use these forms. It's like, well, where do I get that form? How do I create that? So Winlink gives you a way to do that. So this is another reason why it's a great tool. Even if you don't send the messages, you could still use them to create the forms and print them out. At the client station level, it's a fairly standard digital station. If you're familiar with that, you have your computer. Winlink is a Windows, Microsoft Windows compatible program. People get it to work on other systems, but it takes a little bit of work. You have your software program. You have a session controller, and usually have some kind of software modem these days. The hardware TNCs are out there, but a lot of folks have switched over to a software-based modem And then you have your sound card interface, signal link, rig blast, or sometimes actually built into your radio, or sometimes they're two separate devices. Connects to your radio turns these audio signals into RF and puts them out on the antenna. And the Winlink controller takes care of connecting to an RMS station, sending the data out, receiving other data back in again. Just to show you that running, here you see this is my desktop set up with a Vara HF session going. So you have your core software in the back here. You have a Vara HF Winlink session that's running, and you can see it's connected to my ICOM 7100. It's also connected to this Vara HF modem. So this is a software-based modem, takes care of sending the message traffic, converting it into a module, it encodes it into an audio signal. And much like, the modems of the day used to be 1200 baud modems. By the time we stopped with modems, hardware modems, they were at 56K. Vara comes in HF and FM modes, and it's developed by another ham, and he's just really good with different modulation techniques and different encoding techniques and error handling techniques to make this whole system work effectively. If you want to see what it physically looks like, so here's basically the same idea. I've had this exact setup working at we were at the Red Cross having a meeting. We've set these things up. Here's your signal link. So you've got the software running on your computer. The signal link gets your audio in and out of your radio, and that transmit. This looks like a little packet station, which is one of the operating communication modes. We do recommend for emergency use, you don't want to show up at a Red Cross shelter with a walkie-talkie or HT and not be able to get your connection through. So we do recommend 50-watt mobile stations or 100-watt HF rigs with the proper antennas, external antennas and things like that to really make sure you get through. I talked about the connection mode. So the first one is Telnet. It is internet. So everybody's like, well, that's not radio. I don't want to do it. But I participate in drills where I get 120 messages in. It would take a long time to download those at 1200 baud. So if the internet's available, then I use it. And the idea is you'd be sitting in an EOC somewhere that's got a lot of redundant systems. Maybe the external systems are connecting via RF because they don't have the type of systems in place. VHF, UHF, typically we're talking FM stations here. They're running FM, and they're running something called Packet, which is an old, it's been around since the 80s. It's a computer network that's been adapted to amateur radio use via RF instead of like an Ethernet cable. Vara FM is the latest and greatest. Like I said, this fellow's using it. Consider, PSK 31, folks moved into doing FT8 now because it's got much better capabilities for getting through with poor propagation and QRM and things like that. So Vara FM, you can get some fairly decent speeds here. Packet's usually 1200 baud here. Vara FM, you can do 2 or 3 or 4 times that for that. HF, again, it's like any digital signal, they're usually single sideband, upper sideband, and then you have your different modems that work here. So Vara HF is currently kind of the top of the pack right now for software-based modems. Gives you some fairly decent throughput. HF, you also have something called Pactor, which is a hardware modem. It's very expensive. A lot of the government agencies use these, and there's different versions of that. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard, Pactor 4 actually has a symbol rate and a bandwidth greater than what the FCC currently allows. So they always give an exemption. As a hurricane hits, you'll hear that the symbol baud rate restrictions on HF have been lifted temporarily for, recovery efforts, and Pactor 4 is now allowed. That's a fairly reliable system for getting that through, but it's a very expensive hardware modem. AirDop is an older version of a software modem. It's kind of the predecessor to Vara. Vara's really taken over for most of this. Here's an idea of just some of the speeds that are available. So Winmore was the first version of this for HF. It's been discontinued. AirDop is being phased out literally as we speak Vara is just taking over, Vara HF. And Vara HF, the fellow's constantly improving this and getting better speed. So it's this guy, EA6 HVK. So he's the author of these two, and you get a standard speed version of this in Winlink at no cost. He does sell one that's has higher speeds available, higher bandwidths, things like that, and he does charge for that. But you don't necessarily need that to get going, and a lot of folks are still getting along fine with the standard versions. Here in the NLI section, we do have a good, it could be better, but it's still a good 1200 solid, 1200 baud 2-meter packet system. We have Limark runs a digipeater for us, which is a packet repeater, essentially, instead of a voice repeater. And we do have a couple folks have put in, I think Phil Ron and Army Mars, I forget his call sign, he put in a Vara FM station, and Babylon Racy's also put in a Vara FM station at their EOC. And you can get some pretty remarkable speeds out of this, considering the bandwidth and the fact that you're on the radio. Again, I said I didn't show you the worldwide picture. I concentrated mostly on the US. You can see these are the RMS stations. These are the stations out there waiting for clients to connect in, and these stations in turn connect to the Winlink system for sending and receiving. Packet is still the most popular. Again, this is a FM kind of line of sight thing, so it's got to be relatively close by, or use digipeaters. At one point, there was a very extensive packet network in the United States, but it kind of was taken apart as the internet took over. Vara FM starting to be more popular now. It used to be only packet now, so it's about split. It looks like about maybe 2 to 1 here. That might change. See how it goes. Vara HF and AirDop. There's less HF stations out there, but you can reach them from just about anywhere, depending on your radio and your antenna and things like that. And this used to be reversed. Vara HF and AirDop. Recently, Vara HF has taken over for that, just because of the its ability to get through with poor propagation, error handling, and things like that. This is a zoom in for the NLI section for packet. So you can see Connecticut's got a lot of stations. It doesn't really help us much, but sometimes the folks on the North Shore here can reach some of the stations in Connecticut. Westchester has a station we can reach through our digipeater, and we have some stations here on Long Island, and we're always looking. I've run as a RMS station when some of the other ones have been offline. Lou N2RQ always demonstrates this capability during field day. It makes a good hit with the visiting officials that stop by. So we do have some. We'd like to improve it. So that's a kind of a work in progress. With all these stations, Winlink actually helps you out figuring out which ones to connect to. If you want to do HF, Vara, it'll let you. It has this whole system built in here where it knows where the systems are, and it has a propagation tool in there that gives you an idea of which are good system stations that you would probably be able to hit from your locations based on grid squares. You tell Winlink where you are, it knows where the other stations are, and it can give you an idea which station to connect to. This is really just a big overview of Winlink and why we use it and why we think it's a good idea. It's not really a step-by-step guide by any means. You have to download the software. You can get it from the winlink.org website, and you can start registering for it. Your local ARRL group or RACES group, we do use this, so we can help you out with that. And we do weekly messages and drills, sending information via Winlink, so you can participate on that. There's a group that I'm also a member of. It's not an NLI group, it's a nationwide group. This EMCOMM training.org, and we run weekly and semi-annual drills. And like every week, I'll get 50 to 60 Winlink messages from folks, and there's so much in Winlink to learn about different capabilities that it has. I thought I knew quite a bit of it, and as part of these drills, I learned a lot more. There's a lot of different capabilities there. Lou N2RQ, he sends out a weekly blast for Nassau County ARRLs, so we encourage you to join ARRLs. If you don't, but just want to listen in. It's mostly just a message that says when our next meeting is and you know, things like that. So if you just want to get some traffic in through Winlink, it's a way to just get a message in to make sure you can use Winlink. The other resources that are good, plug for ARRL and Steve Ford, WB8 IMY. This book, Getting on the Air with HF Digital, connecting a computer to your radio and controlling it and making it all play nice together. It's topics of, you know, you can have entire presentations just on that. The book covers this very well, what you're doing, how to do it, and has a lot of good resources in there. So I recommend something like that. Of course, the internet, I borrowed a lot of these slides, but these groups, besides having slides and stuff, they have a lot of presentations as well, real step-by-step nitty-gritty details about how to set things up, how to connect things, how to get yourself online. So some of these groups I borrowed some slides from, and they're out there. The Winlink website itself has a lot of information. It's got a knowledge base. It's got a lot of info. And the ARRL, their new On the Air magazine, they have a recent article. If you just Google up, you know, ARRL On the Air, Winlink, it'll bring you to a nice article that they had in that magazine. It's a couple pages long, which basically describes everything I told you today here. Probably just a little better organized and presented. So so that's an option there too. So, and there's the YouTube channels that just go on and on and on about setting up Winlink. It's a big system, but it's very well suited to EMCOMM, especially when, you know, it's not just us jumping in and helping someone or us setting up an informal net to keep track of things or help out. But if you're really ever going to be in a situation where you're working with a served agency and they're like, we need to get this list of information, you know, back to the Red Cross and Menil or back to the different fire battalion, and they give you a spreadsheet full of data to send over. Winlink and is going to have capabilities that are going to help you to do that, but you have to know how to use it. We say this all the time at ARRL. You have to run it all the time. Make sure Windows hasn't undone something that you need, or the software needs to be updated or things like that. So this is why we have the weekly drills, that you start it up, update the program, update all the data in it. Also, that you're familiar with other folks, that you have their contact information. When Lou sends out that email, you're going to know 100 people that have Winlink, because otherwise it's like, who do you send your messages to? So those are some of the reasons why we use it here, and a brief overview of the entire system and its capabilities. You can reach me at kd2grs@arrl.net, and you can also visit our Nassau countyarries.org website if you're interested to join the group or just see what we're doing. We do run different nets. We run some DMR nets. We run NBeams net. We send out Winlink traffic. So if you want to jump in a little bit and see what EMCOMM is all about, we have been running hybrid meetings as well, in person and online, so you could attend a meeting and see what's going on with that. So that's basically the end of it. Jim, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Okay, very good, Rob. Thank you very much. A great presentation. Fantastic. George, if anybody has any questions, please list them. We got a few minutes that we can go. Go right ahead. George, is there any questions?
Yes, there's one question here. Are you sending the presentation to the participants later, or how could they get this presentation?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the presentation will be online at HRU.org down the road. It'll also be on a YouTube channel in a couple of weeks. Am I good with that? Sounds good. So Rob's presentation is there, and he's always available for speaking engagements.
I do have one thing I want to mention about the legislation. That was one item. If you don't mind, Jim.
Yeah, no, that's what I wanted to ask you. That was going to be my question. Has any update on that legislation?
So I'm purposely not saying too much about the legislation because the Legislative Advocacy Committee wants to do some media events with the ham radio media, and that'll be in a couple of weeks. So watch out for that. I will be hosting them on my YouTube channel. Also, we'll have other ham media we'll be talking with, and podcasts and such. So if you didn't know, we had 2 pieces of legislation filed. One of them, timely as we just talked about Winlink, we actually had legislation filed to basically direct the FCC to remove the symbol rate limit, which has basically kept Winlink traffic running in an older mode and not able to achieve modern speeds. The other one is, of course, the land use legislation, which we have completely revamped, and the Legislative Advocacy Committee will be talking extensively about that. We have some members of Congress we've been working with, and of course, the bill was introduced last year, but it will be reintroduced this year, and we're hopefully working to get it passed. So, but we will have more about that within a couple of years. So Representative Debbie Lesko I believe her husband's a ham, and she has been, she's been an advocate for amateur radio. She proposed a resolution recognizing amateur radio in Congress. So we have some partners we're working with.
Okay, great.
She's introduced that legislation.
All right, thank you, Rhea. It's very good. It's good news. We'll look forward to seeing that from ARRL, and all that. I'd like to, right now, I guess we're just about done. So I want to thank everybody for coming to the presentation, and thank Rhea and Rob. Outstanding job, and always. And we'll see you next time. So enjoy the HRU. And if you care to donate, there's a little spot there. You can send a little donation to PayPal on the HRU.org website. Thanks again, everybody. See you soon. 7-3.
Thank you. 7-3.
7-3.